you gotta get your finger like halfway in your asshole and wash it clean. And I'm like,
Cleans with their finger.
I was like, so you wash these? She's like, clean, wash it clean, wash it clean.
I'm calling bullshit out.
In moderation.
I'm calling bullshit on that. I mean, even let's just say even take masturbation. Sure, you may rub skin off your junk and everything like that, but if you just use lotion, you're fine. That doesn't hold true with masturbation. I say the more the merrier because you're building up your immune system too, right? We talked about this.
What about a water-based lubrication? Really good at it.
Well, that's fine. I always use my tears anyways, so it works.
Oh, are you invested in Melvin Capital?
No.
Welcome to the Stiff Truth. I'm Bob West. I'm here with Scott Casanova, and we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot going on, like a lot going on.
Ooh, I think it's fun.
Crazy. Everything's happening right now except football. So
this is true. This is true. This is a little break from football this weekend, which is it's kind of nice, actually. I've gotten more things done today. I take that back. Anyways, what else we going on with you, man? Come on, give us an update on the house. There's got to be some updates for everybody.
Well, we're closing, so that's good. I expected move dates here in a couple of weeks, so we expect the 18th to close, and I've started scheduling transfers of utilities and movers and all the logistics of moving. So, no, it's looking like it's a pretty much done deal at this point. So we're getting pretty excited around here, and there are a lot of boxes. So we've already started packing.
That's got to be my least favorite part of moving in general. I don't think I'm alone here. Obviously, no showstopper surprise with anybody. But I don't know about you. I moved into my house almost 6 years ago. I still have boxes somewhere. I know that. I don't even know why I have some of this shit, to be honest with you, because I constantly just carry it around from place to place and keep it in the same boxes. Well,
moving's like a great time to declutter, but no one does. In fact, as a perfect example, we've been boxing up. We're like, what is all this shit? Oh no, just box it up. We'll go through it when we get there. Isn't that what we said like 2 houses ago?
It still has the Sharpie on there, and it's like random stuff, or it just says like knickknacks or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, I literally, in the room next to me, I have boxes and boxes of, check it out, because you'll always use these VHS movies, of course, right? So they just go from house to house with me, and of course I'm gonna find some fabulous use for them eventually. Maybe to bust them out as like show and tell for antiques for my grandchildren or something like that.
They're gonna become of like a nostalgic pop culture art project or something one day for your daughter. It's like, I made this like statue out of these cassette tapes that my dad's been collecting for the last 50 years.
Yeah, this is true. I kind of see it as something that she's going to be proud of, definitely not embarrassed and ashamed of, that I have a wicked collection of VHS. So there's that.
Wow. There's nothing like fixing the tracking to watch The Crow.
This is true.
Why is the top of his head doing this weird shit all the time? I'll fix that. Give me that remote. You're in the way. You're in the way. I got to aim it exactly at it. And you're like a foot away from it using the remote. It's like, why don't you just press the button? Because I'm going to use the remote.
It's so funny too, because I don't know if you had one of these. We had one in the early 90s, and I remember thinking it was so cool, so we didn't wear and tear and just put too much on the old VCR. But do you remember the VHS rewinders that were separate from the VCR?
Dude, of course.
Oh, dude. And they had
like it popped up when it was done, and you just slide the cassette in there, and it makes this crazy sound as it's rewinding, like it's gonna break it.
It had to, and maybe it was just because I was a kid, but it felt like those had some balls. Like there was a kickstart or something like that for that bad boy, or a pull start even. Wicked. The badass, the accessories that you needed for the VHS player. I have one. I don't even know. I don't know if it was an older model or just a design, but you remember the ones too that used to close from the top? Like you put them in and like you just close the lid down as the VHS, not the slide in.
Until it broke.
Yeah, well, those are pretty intense too.
Until both of them broke.
Yeah,
that was the whole insert exit method of the cassette disc itself. Always wore out on the VCRs every time.
Well, there's still some of the best movies too, that some of them didn't even transfer over to DVD or digital too, especially a lot of the old snuff films. So I'm glad I got them.
Well, you've got that VHS to DVD contraption that you can buy and burn your own. You can get in
That's
there.
pretty intense. I don't know if I want to donate that kind of time. But anyways, hey, football
it's about as bad as making a best of show.
As tough times, man. Lesson learned there. But no, let's chat a little bit here. I mean, we don't have football going on, but can we just say that both of the championship games, I mean, we made predictions. We sure did. I missed the mark fucking completely on both games, but they were a letdown just with what I wanted to see. Don't get me wrong. Good games, though. I think they were all within a touchdown? I want to say.
Yeah, they were good. I mean, the Chiefs game was.
Chiefs kind of ran away with it.
Yeah, it was less close, even like regardless of the score, because they had control of the whole game. But I want to say the Patriots, but the Bucks game was actually
it is the fucking Patriots.
It was actually really close, and you're like, oh, is Rodgers gonna Brady? No, it's the playoffs. No, and I was thinking about it. You know that Brady's been to a Super Bowl on average almost every single other year of his career in the NFL.
I think it's kind of disgusting.
I think his 10th.
Yeah, it's kind of sickening if you ask me. I understand. I've seen it all over the place too. The true GOAT, best quarterback of all time. I guess now you can't really argue that if you look at the accolades, if you look at the tail of the tape, so to speak, he's got it. And he's 43. I don't know who I was talking to the other. I think I was talking to Jamie about this, but he's got no signs of slowing down either. I don't see him retiring next season. I don't see him retiring the season after. And what that's going to do, if the Bucks continue to be a good team, and I don't see that dramatically changing, being obviously now a Super Bowl caliber team this year, is the guy's going to break every record, right? I don't think he has a few records. I think Manning has a few. I think Breeze has a few with most yards, stuff like those are going to be gone. Everybody else has respectfully bowed out of the game like they should at this time. Even Phillip Rivers went ahead and called it quits at 39. That's respectable because he knows he's going to be on the decline. Brady doesn't have that. I literally think in the back of his mind, he's such a piece of shit. And I only say that because I'm a little bit jelly of like all these things that he just keeps the fucking, he's going to have so many rings on his fingers. It's going to be ridiculous. But I literally think in the back of his mind, he tries to act a little bit humble and blah, blah, blah. He's going for it all. He wants every fucking record that's possible for a quarterback to have. And it looks feasible that he's going to have every single one now if he plays another, let's call it 2 seasons, I think. And I think that's feasible, don't you?
He's right behind Breeze, so
yeah, and that's just yards, right? I think Breeze just has most yards or something like that at this point. Right. Yeah,
maybe touchdowns, but definitely yards.
Yeah.
So the thing about Brady that makes him so incredible is there's really kind of 3 things that you need to be a consistent quarterback, other than be really intelligent, right? And physically gifted with a good arm. So you got to be able to throw like that 15, 20 yard out with velocity so that you can beat that DB from undercutting it, right? You got to be able to throw that pass. They keep calling that in college quarterbacks. They call that the NFL throws quote, right? So that's one of the ones that as you start to lose it, you saw it with Peyton Manning at Denver. He could no longer throw that pass with velocity, and it was always a risk. So he stopped throwing them.
Can I say this? Can I say he played one season too long, I think?
He did.
Yeah.
And he won a Super Bowl that year. How crazy was that?
Well, dude, defense wins Super Bowls a lot of the times. We saw that the 2000 Ravens, and there's other examples, 85 Bears. That one was like the quintessential, like literally Brock Osweiler or whatever, like played most of the season.
I'm fairly certain that Von Miller won the MVP that year, right? So I think so. If not defensive player of the year, but definitely he was leading that defense. But back to Brady. So he can throw that deep out with velocity, right? He's also still elusive in the pocket. Like we know that Brady's not, he's not outrunning anyone ever, but he's got that sense to avoid a sack and step up in the pocket by a little bit of time, that extra second to get the ball out or throw it away or make a good quarterback play. So there's that he still has at his age. And then the other thing, he can take a 5-step drop and drop a 50-yard bomb.
He can still
can still unleash it deep, and that's another thing that Peyton couldn't do.
Well, and you saw this too. I think we were watching the same game and we both said something about it. You saw that Hail Mary at the end of the Colts, try, and that horrible excuse for a bomb of a pass from Phillip Rivers. You're like, dude, what was that? Had the worst arc on it ever because he had no power anymore. I mean,
Right.
it's the same kind of thing. And I think he probably even looked at that tape and was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it quits this year. That was a really ugly per throw for an elite quarterback. I don't think he's going to the Hall of Fame or anything like that, but Phillip Rivers is always a good quarterback, always a tier 1 quarterback, if you ask me. But yeah, and look, can I say this too? I mean, Jesus Christ, man, what happened both with the offensive line for the Bucs and the defense in the last like 5-6 weeks of the season and then into the playoffs? They literally just turned it on at the right time. There was a little time in the middle of the season, beginning of the season, they looked pretty sloppy. But
So,
I don't know if that's Brady's leadership. I don't know if that's the coach. I don't know if that's individual players like just stepping up, but they got real scary real quick. And I don't
yeah,
like
and
that.
I think it's kind of a lot of things. There's a lot of pieces on that team that are new this year. So I think it took a long time for them to really find their groove and their style and their format and be led with the leadership of Brady and Arians. I think that had something to do with it. But also as Brady and that offense kept gelling and being more consistent, then that gives that defense more of an opportunity to take breaks, stay fresh, and it gives them a better chance to succeed the better the offense does. So I think that's why you kind of saw it as a whole. The better the offense did, the better the defense did. The better the defense did, the better the offense did. And it just kind of that balance started really growing with them, and now they're really dangerous. And I'd have to say I'm thinking Bucks, man. I can't
fucking Christ.
I can't bet against Brady in the Super Bowl. I mean, he's obviously had Patrick Mahomes' number every time he plays him. So
this is very true.
I think they've got a good team. Again, I think they got balance. They got everything that you need. They got a good pass rush. They got a decent run game that I think they also have really good coaching. So that's the matchup though, right? Bruce Arians against
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, thank you. That's an awesome matchup there.
Both overweight gentlemen too, quite portly, like a little bit shaped like a bowling ball a little bit. Yeah, they have a similar look too, I will say. But here's the other thing that I noticed that it pissed me off. It really did piss me off. Leonard Fournette, where did he come from? Did he come from like I want to say Jacksonville, right?
Yeah,
like most
so
recently
LSU and then Jacksonville drafted him. Now he's with Tampa.
What the fuck was with this guy, especially during the playoffs? All of a sudden, he is like the best running back in the game. He's like breaking through everybody. Nobody can take him down. I'm like, what's going on here, dude? It was upsetting to me, but again, I don't know what it is. Maybe he's always been this good, but I wasn't expecting that from this guy either. So I would say like prior to the season or even at the start of the season, I'd be like, yeah, the Bucks, they got Brady, they got Gronk, they've got Mike Evans, they got Godwin, they got a great defense, but they don't have a running game. I would keep saying that. And now I can't say that anymore. So I do agree with you there. It's going to be tough. And I literally think the other thing that really sucks is this is the first time I believe I saw this, that literally they have home field advantage in the fucking Super Bowl because the Super Bowl's in Tampa Bay too. Could you really just lay it on any thicker and give Brady like any more ammunition and leverage to just take this home for a 7th championship, a fucking 7th championship? Ugh.
Also, they're underdogs, so because like Brady needed any more motivation. They're underdogs at home.
If they needed to give him a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, you know what I mean? Jesus Christ.
He's like the personification of what a chip on their shoulder is. That is Tom Brady. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. He was underdrafted, undervalued, and always has performed better. His contract's always been out of the top 5 in quarterbacks in the league consistently every single year. He's always getting fucking put aside. And I don't know, it's like his management knows that let's just fuck this guy over a little bit and keep him salty because he plays better.
He plays better when he's a salty bitch. That's for sure. And I tell you, man, like watching that game, I was really, really pulling for Rodgers to get in there. I mean, whether or not he earns one, he needs another ring. I think he's good enough. He's good. He's going to the Hall of Fame, hands down.
For sure. Yeah.
Rodgers is he's the best that's ever played for Green Bay. If you ask me, way better than Brett Favre.
Yeah,
but I think he's 37 now too. I really, really wanted him to get that opportunity to get another ring. And how cool of a story would it have been to knock Brady out of there. So he's not like this, I can go to any fucking team and be a contender and go to the fucking championship game, but also have a kind of a nice little a play there. If it was Kansas City versus Green Bay, it would be like a repeat of Super Bowl I with the two teams, right? That would have been really cool too. But no, it's got all fucked up. And honestly, the Chiefs and Bills game, I will tell you, as you know too, and I think you were pulling for the Bills. We didn't even finish that game. There was at a certain point where Jamie's just like, turn it off.
It just got sad. They were just they're just not ready. They're too young. They just got outclassed by a championship team. Like I said, they got totally controlled by the Chiefs in every aspect of the game.
And that's where it shined, where having experience, being at this dance before, I think made the world a difference. I bet you those guys were sweating bullets, jittery, not really feeling it. And the Chiefs like, hey, we've done this before. We just did this last year and took it home. And I think that was probably the different maker. There was almost an element, and not definitely apparent or purposeful, but it looks like the Bills, to a certain extent, gave up when they realized they were getting handled and didn't put up a fight to the end kind of deal.
Well, and honestly, like, other than like the first couple of drives of that game, once they started seeing like the impressiveness of the Chiefs, the Bills had a real deer in the headlights feel to them. They're just like, wow, we can't even beat these guys. We can't stop them. We can't score on them. We can't. You can see it in their demeanor, in their attitude. They just kind of were getting through the game at a certain point, and it happened early. And I think it happened before halftime.
Yeah, that was the sad part too, is you really weren't feeling like, yeah, they're gonna come back here. I know it. They, they're poised for a sick drive right now. No, it was just getting more sad and more like they were just kind of just settling into losing the game, right?
Well, and the coach too, right? At the end of the second quarter there, they had a chance inside the 10-yard line on a 4th down to try to tie it up and get it within just a few points. Yeah. And they kicked the field goal.
That's not what you do. That's not what you do against the Chiefs, dude. No. I mean, I get it, right? Because if you miss it, right? If you miss that opportunity, everybody's going to be coming down on the coach after the game. But when you pussyfoot it and kick a field goal when you had the chance to tie it up, you're going to get shit for that too. I mean,
they're the Super Bowl champs. You got to pull out all the stops, and you're on the road. I mean, you just gotta try anything that you can, and have the faith in your team. And sending the kicker out there to just get points instead of getting none isn't the right message. And I think it did send the right message to the team that, we might not have a chance in this game. And I think from then on out, I think the demeanor changed coming out of the locker room, and the game was over. I mean, from that point.
You know what really burdens me with the what ifs too is I really think if the games prior would have went the way we wanted to, and just any given Sunday kind of mentality, the Browns beat the Chiefs, then the Browns are going to Buffalo. I think we're looking at a Bills Bucks Super Bowl, but that's not the way it shook out. Because I definitely think the Bills can handle the Browns. You know what I mean? I'm not saying talent wise, but being like they've never been to this game, that kind of point, I think that kind of evens the playing field there. But it didn't roll out that way.
Next year, we're gonna have plenty of Bills Browns AFC fighting over the next decade. I can assure you.
Isn't it kind of nice too, if you think about it, those two divisions that are usually dominated by the Steelers, and the Steelers probably aren't going away anytime soon, but still, I think for the AFC North, right? I think that's definitely going to be a Browns kind of led division for the next couple of years. And same thing with the Bills in the AFC East, which is really refreshing because both of those, as we already know, how many times have the Steelers won with Big Ben? Like twice, 3 times? I mean, they got
twice,
a decent amount.
But they're always in the mix.
They're always in the mix, and they're always on the top of that division. So it's great to see that kind of just flip a little bit. And then the Bills, I think they're going to be commanding their division hopefully for a while, because we'll see. Yeah. I don't know. You think Belichick stays much longer with the Patriots? You think it's time maybe for him to move on?
I don't think he's going to stay much longer simply because he's getting old. I don't think it's necessarily because he doesn't want to do it anymore, but he's pushing 70 now, man.
And now he knows, right? Now he knows, oh shit, Brady was a huge element of our success. Fuck.
Did you see some of the trades going on though?
Dude, I'm super fired up. I am super fired up for the LA Rams getting Matthew Stafford. I'm and 2 first-round draft picks. When I saw that, I was like, you sly son of a bitch. Stafford, you may get your championship at least audition. You know what I mean?
He deserves a shot, man, because he's always been one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. And unfortunately, kind of like Barry Sanders,
he was stuck in
Detroit.
Detroit
For the Lions ends up with no championships. I mean, that's just how it is if you're in Detroit.
Yep.
The next time Go
I
ahead.
think it's good. I think that's going to be really interesting, and I'm really interested to see if golf with Detroit even moves the needle at all. I don't really know because still you're going to have to go against the Packers with with Rodgers for a while. The Bears may turn it around too. So I don't know. I definitely think that the Rams got the better end of that deal. I really do. For the
Yeah,
short term. For the
Matthew
short.
Stafford's amazing. I've
Yeah.
I've even seen some of the best quarterbacks in the league watching Stafford play and be like, how did he make that throw? And this is like top tier quarterbacks. Like, did he just sidearm under that guy's armpit? Like, how did he know? How can he even see that guy from there? But Matthew Stafford is a crazy quarterback. He's really fucking good.
He's
Um,
always impressed me. And you're right. He's been handcuffed by his team and the organization. How do you think? Because I don't know her name, but I know Jared Goff is, they talk about like how hot his girlfriend is or whatever. She's like kind of like some supermodel. How do you think she feels right now moving from Los Angeles to Detroit? That's
I don't
it's
know.
probably a hard pill to swallow.
I mean,
I gotta imagine. But he probably got a hefty payday. So there's that, So
well,
it's
his
probably
contract
okay.
is what the contract is. He's on like a 5-year deal or something like that already. He
Mhm.
keeps that. It was a trade, so
Yeah.
he keeps that contract. So and he's still going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league as far as pay goes. Another big one that might be going down right now is they're talking about the Bears reaching out for Tua Taglioviola or whatever.
That
The
was a good attempt. I just call him Tua. I just go ahead and say
Yeah.
that.
So they're trying to get him from Miami and basically give him their guy for the
Yeah.
next several years.
What?
And how great would that be for them? Because he's a good quarterback. He's shown a lot of promising signs in Miami
Mhm.
until they started tanking near the end. But I think that's good for both teams.
I'm really interested to see where Deshaun Watson goes. That's
Yeah.
where I think that could be
As
a
we
game
all are.
changer.
Houston's like,
Yes.
we're not going to trade him. Like, so you're going to keep your quarterback in the face of your franchise that's pissed off and doesn't want to play for you. And that's going to work out well. The leader of your team not wanting to play.
Yeah,
So,
disgruntled leader of the team. That always goes well for just gelling,
yeah.
So
No,
interested.
I'm guessing. This is just kind of a guess, but I'm going to guess that he ends up in New York.
Jets or Giants?
Jets.
Okay. You know what? I would take him because I don't think Alex Smith is coming back, nor does he really have the longevity. I wish he would come to Washington.
Man,
Be
yeah, that'd be
exciting.
great.
That'd be great for me.
I don't know, however, if Dak is going to get that deal signed with the Cowboys or not at this point. He just signed like a 10-year deal with Budweiser,
Wow.
and that is not the Cowboys beer.
That's kind of funny. You're like, hey, fella, what are you doing?
So Jerry Jones has a contract with somebody else.
What is the Cowboys beer? I wonder.
That's a great question.
Beer of the Cowboys. I'll fact check it. Keep going, Bob. I got you on this, buddy. Beer of the Cowboys.
Well, I mean, maybe it is
Official
Budweiser.
Beer.
I don't know.
Here we go.
But
I got this.
The article that I read.
It's Miller Lite. Just so you know, Miller Lite.
Sorry, hold on. Say that again.
It's Miller Lite.
Miller Lite. So yeah, the
mm-hmm.
article that I read said that he signed a contradictory endorsement deal with a different beer, and that's going to cause a problem with negotiation because he signed a 10-year deal. And I wonder if that's a signal that Dak's ready to move on, or that he's trying to force his way out.
Yeah, honestly, I think he's holding the cards here, man. I mean, if they really want to push him out, I have to say their loss. I think he's a great quarterback, dude, and he's only developed and become better. That's kind of
like there's a lot of free agent quarterbacks out there that you can just pull in and replace Dak Prescott.
You know what? I'll take him too. I'll take him or Deshaun. I'm not picky, bro. I'll take anybody.
I'll take any top 10 quarterback.
At this point, because I'm literally a little bit nervous about what we're going to be doing next year in Washington. Do we go with the kid that played really, really well in that last game that we had, or we call that our franchise guy, or is Smith going to come back? I have no idea what's going on there. So
yeah, I would
take over Dak.
They both have great numbers. They're in that 40 touchdowns a year versus 10 interceptions, kind of 4,000 yards kind of territory. And that's a handful of quarterbacks reach those numbers. And so far they've been doing it fairly consistent for the last few years. So again, with Matthew Stafford, same category that the LA Rams just picked up. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. It's always exciting to kind of move on to the season because then we get that optimism of how like bad is our team going to suck. maybe it's not as bad as we think, and we get that optimism every year.
I'll tell you what, right now I'm already thinking, dude, we're going 9-7 this year, baby. Winning
We're gonna
record.
blow the roof off. 8-8.
Woo, woo. Which actually makes you a contender in the NFC East, as you know. So
yeah, it truly does. So you know who's not a contender anymore? Conor McGregor.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, man. And what's this dude? Is it Poirier? Is it Poirier? Is that how it goes? Like I said,
I'm gonna say you're correct. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's Poirier, Dustin Poirier or whatever, right? But there was a lot of hype. The McGregor, and if everybody doesn't know, big UFC fight, Conor McGregor, always flashy, always making a lot of noise, always talking a lot of shit. He did get TKO'd in the second round. That's pretty damn quick. And I don't know if you watched. I watched the highlights, right? Because I did not watch the fight. I didn't get it on pay-per-view or whatever. But I watched it, and it wasn't as dramatic that I thought it was going to be. I thought maybe he got his clock completely cleaned and lifted off the ground or something ridiculous, and then knocked out fucking seeing Tweety Birds, all that good shit. It was technical. He got hurt. He did a misstep, what have you. They stopped the fight. He was fine when they stopped the fight too. It was just over. I don't know, but at the same time, what happened to that guy? I mean, he had some lofty goals for 2021 too. I don't know if you saw that, but he said he wanted to do 17 fights this year, and already he's off to a really bad start, man. Can we say maybe he's a thing of the past?
I don't know if he's going to be a thing of the past marketing wise, right? Because
they love advertising that guy.
We all like McGregor, at least as an event. Right.
He's got a lot of personality. That's for damn sure.
Right. So, I mean, whether you like him or you hate him, he's polarizing and you want to watch him. You're either watching him to hate him and hope he gets knocked out, or you're watching him to see him knock somebody out. I mean, just because that's McGregor, right? Is he a serious contender anymore as far as going to dominate? No. And really, he never was a truly dominant guy. He had a good run, but then you still mixed in a loss here and there. It's not like he was going, Mike Tyson in the early 90s on everything. So
yeah, that's true.
He's a good fighter to watch. He's flashy, but even the reason that we love to watch him, we love to watch the weigh-in. We love to watch how he's talking shit and getting in the guy's head. And he doesn't even do that anymore. He has gone businessman. He is upper class all the way. He wears his $3,000 suits. He promotes his 12 whiskey. He gets in there.
It is interesting. I know we had talked about this too, but before the fight, I was actually very surprised to see him at the weigh-in and to see him a couple other things where they were face to face, him and Poirier. We're just gonna call him Poirier because I hope that's right. But yeah, very respectful, shaking his hand, nodding, almost like a bow, like no shit talking. It was very strange. And I think I mentioned this before. I don't know if maybe he knew. Like this could come back to bite me in the ass if I'm too aggressive with the shit talking right now because I'm just not feeling it, or I think I'm going to get my ass kicked, or without that though, he kind of lost a little bit of his luster, like you just said, on why even people tune in and want to see him, because he's like the Muhammad Ali shit talker of the UFC, and that's not even there anymore. So he better step up his game there if he's going to get those advertising dollars. I can only say that.
Yeah, if he's going to be that measured and he's not going to be unhinged anymore, then he needs to be able to flip that switch once the bell rings, because something happened. I don't know. Maybe he was on PEDs or something and he can't take them anymore. I don't know.
He better step up his game a little bit there, because that was disappointing, is all I can say. I think he's trying to, I want to say he's trying to fight Khabib again too, and that's probably like the pound for pound best guy in the UFC right now.
He won't take that fight. Why would he take that fight?
I don't know. Money. I mean,
but he's got nothing to prove over McGregor. He's got to win some fights before he wants to go fight the champ. I mean, that ain't gonna happen. Even Pacquiao said no. I mean, he removed his foot warmers and took his glasses off and everything and set down his newspaper, and he was just like, "You're not worth fighting," and his old man voice, "You're not worth fighting," right?
Jesus Christ. Pacquiao's like what is he, in his late 30s, something like that?
No,
early 40s.
40 now, because he was 38 or 39 when he fought Mayweather. That was a few years back.
Pacquiao, yeah, he was exciting too,
but he's still fighting. Got to give it to the guy. He's still fighting. I mean, he just fought a couple months ago, so give it up to that guy. You know, speaking of fighting, there's a huge fight going on that we have to get to.
The transitions are magical today. I love it.
we have to get to. I mean, we got to
Woo!
talk about this fight on Wall Street that's going on right now.
Come
We got
on,
to clear a
baby.
lot of things up. I think there's a lot of misconceptions going out there. I think there's a lot of misinformation campaigns going on with a lot of money backing it. And I think we need to explain what's happening in case there's stiffies that don't know. I'm going to assume that they're well read and they've already caught up to speed on what's happening. But in case there's no stiffies out there, or there's some stiffies out there that aren't tuned into the financial sector like this, because as you guys know, me and Scott have become traders over the last 6 months. So
With diamond hands.
we do have diamond hands. So I wanted to get into this and make sure that we can definitely explain what's going on. Are you okay with that?
I would love to. I mean, the stock market's been exciting this past week. That's the least I can say. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, and there's a lot of shadiness going on right now too. Like you said, there's some propaganda, right? I've heard way too many market integrity speeches and talks and write-ups from a lot of different people, and now you kind of know where they're at. But Bob, why don't you lay the foundation here, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had read an article on Wall Street Bets on Reddit that was really well. It was a great explanation to what's happening right now with the short sells. So I mean, if you don't mind, it's a quick read. It'll take me a few minutes to get through it, but it really does break down kind of what's happening right now with Melvin Capital. So this actually comes from a guy on Wall Street Bets. It's posted by a guy named Reddit Lurker 2001.
I was just going to ask
get
you
in there
what his tag was.
So we got to get in there, right? And it says,
Yes.
If your friends and family are wondering why you're buying GameStop, $ GME at $300, maybe you can explain it to them like this. So there's a rich kid in town. Let's call him Melvin. He thinks he's really smart. He finds a coupon for $20 off the new Nintendo Switch during the holidays with no limit on the number of units. This is easy. I'll go ahead and sell the Switch now for $200 and then buy it for $180 with the coupon. Easiest $20 I'll ever make. He goes and tells his parents and their friends at the Citadel Country Club that he can get them the new Nintendo Switch for their kids. He collects $200 from 150 parents. He now has $30,000 and will use that money to purchase Nintendo Switches for $27,000. He'll have earned $3,000 in just a few hours. His parents will be so proud. There's another kid watching Melvin this entire time. Let's call him Keith. Keith doesn't like Melvin. Keith is good friends with the guys over at GameStop. He finds out that there were only 100 new Switches shipped to the entire country. Keith and his 99 friends buy all 100 Nintendo Switches on the spot.
And his 99 friends.
Later in the day, Melvin goes to GameStop with his $20 off coupon and says, I'll take 150 Nintendo Switches, please. GameStop guy looks at him and says, sorry, we're all sold out. Melvin goes to the next GameStop. Same story, all sold out. He goes to all the GameStops in the city and can't find a single Switch. He won't be able to fulfill the orders. Meanwhile, Keith is telling all of his friends about what Melvin promised the members of the country club. Nobody sell him the Nintendo Switch that you bought, no matter how much he offers you. Nobody likes Melvin. So everybody holds on to their Nintendo Switch.
Hold.
So now Melvin is in trouble. His parents' rich friends are all asking when they're going to get their Nintendo Switch. Melvin's parents are angry, but they don't want to lose their standing in the Citadel Country Club. They have to help Melvin get 150 Nintendo Switches. Now, remember, there are only 100 Switches in the city, but Melvin has created the expectation among the parents that there are 150. This is how you get a short percentage over 100%. Melvin has promised more than actually exists. The price of Nintendo Switches in the city skyrockets. Melvin's parents were able to get a few units from Keith's friends, but they had to pay really inflated prices for them. First $1,000, then $2,000, now $3,000. It's nearing Christmas, and every rich parent at the country club, is desperate for the Nintendo Switch they promised their kids. They can't trust that Melvin will be able to get them one. They all start bidding against each other for Switches. Everybody in town is in on the action now. Everybody wants to get a Nintendo Switch to sell to the country club for $10,000. Meanwhile, Keith and his friends are just hanging out and playing Animal Crossing. So that in essence is what's happening right now.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
So the shorts is basically, I'm going to go to TD Trade America, right? And I'm going to buy 100 stocks at, let's call it $10 a piece. So my math is correct. I think that's $10,000. Okay. Well, I'm going to borrow those 100 stocks at $10 a piece, and I'm going to pay you back next Friday. I'm betting at market value of the stock. So I'm going to borrow the stocks, get them in the possession now, and I'm going to pay you back next Friday. And a normal short, they take those stocks, they hold on to them, they watch the market go down, they turn them in for $7, and then at the end of the 2 weeks, they buy them for $7. Meanwhile, as soon as they got them, they had sold them at face value. So then they keep that $3,000 profit. Easy peasy. They didn't have to do anything, right? Meanwhile, the company starts losing value in the company, and this is how Toys R Us went out of business. FYI, fuck hedge funds. So beyond all of that, here's the compounding part that's going on right now, is they then take those 100 stocks that they didn't own, and they sell them to somebody else that's also shorting them. Right. So they're buying them also and saying they're going to pay them back. And now you have this daisy chain of people, when really the only people that own that stock is TD Trade America, because until they get paid for them, they haven't been fulfilled. The order hasn't been fulfilled. So they're still waiting, holding the deeds to these stocks. Right. So meanwhile, the company that bought the stocks is now selling them to another company that's shorting them, telling them that they have them, and they're shorting them to them. And now you have two sets of people. That's how you get over 100% of the stocks out there in the market that are short. That's what was spotted on this trade. And when someone on Reddit said, "Oh my God, look, GameStop has 130% of stocks shorted." So that's why when they're like, "Hey, maybe we can drive up the price. I own some of these stocks. Maybe we can at least get the price up enough with our 600,000 users that we can get these guys to not be able to cover their short. And when they go to buy them back, they actually have to buy them back at $15 instead of 10, right? Then GameStop sells their stock for more than it was worth, so they get more retained earnings, they get more working operating capital, and their value of their company goes up. Hence, everyone that owns a stake in that company goes up. Stocks are worth more. So what happened though is that compounded because everyone got wind of this. So it wasn't just the 600,000 people on Reddit.
It's worldwide, baby.
The news reported on it. That 600,000 is now up to like 7.5 million people belong to Wall Street Bets now as of this morning. And so now, even if there's only 10% of those people are invested in GameStop, that's a lot of fucking people that are invested in GameStop, right? So now people are buying up all this stock, and these hedge funds can't cover. They just can't. So the investors are trying to pour money into these hedge funds by the billions of dollars so that they can hold out. And they're selling these stocks to each other to try to manipulate the market and make the stock go down. But really, no one's actually selling. Everyone's holding these stocks, but they're trying to drive the price down. But it's not causing a mass sell-off. It's not causing people to get scared. Because if you go to Reddit and you read the Wall Street Bets community, they are self-proclaimed retards, and they are holding on to these stocks just for the fact to watch these guys burn.
Yeah.
Many of them willing to lose it all just to fuck Melvin Capital. For real.
I think it's beautiful too. And we had talked about this too. It's very interesting, as you can see, everybody coming out of the woodwork that's supported by the hedge funds in general. They're really trying to paint the Reddit users and anybody that's buying. I feel like there's just shaming going on right now too. I've seen it on Stash. I've obviously Robinhood too. It's like market integrity stuff. You go and click on, because yes, I have both GameStop and AMC. I'm very proud of it actually, but it's funny, even clicking on it says this is a highly volatile stock, blah, blah. And it gives you like a little explanation, basically kind of like trying to get people away from them too. It's really, really funny. And they're trying to paint all the Reddit users like criminals that are manipulating the stock market, when quite in fact, they're literally just playing the same game that the hedge fund people have always been playing. And it's a dangerous game on their end that's been like you just talked about, putting people out of business, putting people out of work, why they make a quick buck. And now that the tables have turned and people actually realize, hey, we see what you're fucking doing, and we're going to bet the other way. They don't like that. But it's purely legal, which is really funny, because there's a really big gray area here. It's like, how far do you have to go back to start pointing out the shadiness of it? Is it with what's going on right now, or what the hedge fund people have been doing for a long time?
Yeah, and honestly, short selling stocks is illegal in several countries that have trading.
Yeah.
So America is kind of the outlier that promotes short selling, like it's an equalizer in the market, because it's really equalizing when someone has, their last $100 million left as their corporate entity, and it gets squeezed down to $30 million, and they have to close all their stores, put people out of work, and their business goes under. When they had $100 million to try to restructure, reorganize, skeleton crew out, maybe diversify their business model and fight back, they lose that opportunity, because hedge funds are literally taking the last of their money, buying a couple more yachts, and watching them go away, and all the hundreds or thousands of jobs that would go along with it. I mean, right now GameStop employs like 14,000 people.
Yeah. And then they're essentially just squeezing the life out of stocks just to make a quick buck too. And now they're the ones yelling, in uproar now about fraud and about it not being fair and all this shit. It's really interesting too, because I'm interested to see just how this plays out in general, not just for these stocks, because what is it too? What I think is really cool is the I want to say like 90s, early 2000s nostalgia for some of the stocks that they chose to back as well. You got BlackBerry, right? Yeah. Nokia, Naked Juices. You know what I mean?
You can tell they're millennials. It's
yeah. It's like it's most of Reddit's user base, right? Or are gamers and people that grew up in that area on a whole, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. But we were talking about it before the show too. This maneuver, this shady maneuver by the Reddit users and everything, essentially like just saved and gave a huge amount of opportunity to AMC in general. We talked about it. I mean, they literally were able to wipe out, I think, $600 million worth of debt because of their higher valuation that they wouldn't have had if they would have continued to get shorted. So very interesting, bro, because here's how I see it playing out. See it one of two ways. I think paradigm shifting, how we're trading, rules and regulations, whatever it is, probably going to be pretty dramatic here. But I could see it going where the common man is no longer able to invest anymore. And I think that's already what we're seeing right now. The curtain's been pulled back. You're like, oh, right. Okay. So you guys are still in control of everything. And goddamn, if the small man actually wins more than you just have to start changing the rules of the game to make sure you can continue winning, and the small man can continue to stay small, right? So I think that could go that way, right? And all of a sudden we're pushed out of the stock market and being able to play, or it goes completely the other direction, which
the hedge funds get pushed out.
Yeah, which I don't see happening. I don't see happening,
but short selling might get pushed out.
Yeah,
which would be, I think, would be greater. That would be beneficial for the country if short selling were just not allowed, and let companies die out naturally through the market and not market manipulation, and just the free market, and their business model doesn't keep up with changing times and they go out of business, like you should and has been going on for hundreds of years in America. But to be manipulated out of the market and to have your doors shut by a bunch of hedge fundies, now that's a real problem. And I did want to bring up some of the particulars of the misinformation I had briefly touched on a little bit earlier. But just to break this down, right? So Melvin Capital is a hedge fund, operates out of Wall Street in New York.
They're having a tough time.
They're definitely having a tough time. But
rightfully so.
One of their largest investors is a company called Citadel. Right. So Citadel LLC, I believe, is one of their largest investors. Right. So break that on over to Robinhood. So Robinhood came out a few years ago, and we've all seen the commercials, and we know about Robinhood and Stash. And
I think the name is quite ironic now, Robinhood, because it's literally the opposite of what Robinhood would do, from stealing from the rich and give to the poor. But anyways, please proceed.
They literally campaigned and marketed their company as, this is the opportunity for the common man to trade. Yeah, no transaction fees. Yeah. You can trade on your own. You can do your own research, and you don't have to a buy-in amount that's unreachable for the common man. Go buy a single stock and build your portfolio from that. Right? That's their whole platform. So interesting thing, 40% of Robinhood it comes from Citadel.
Mm.
So Citadel is heavily invested in Robinhood and Melvin Capital. So here's the problem with that. When all of this shit started going down, all of a sudden Robinhood stopped selling
Yeah.
AMC and
Restricted.
GameStop stock.
They wouldn't let anybody buy.
100% just stopped selling. We are no longer selling this stock. That 50% of Robinhood users own GameStop stock, by the way. So they just one day decided to stop selling. That drew the attention of Congress. Oh,
We love that.
You're manipulating the market by prohibiting selling during a squeeze? That seems illegal. And so now AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and on the other side, Donald Trump Jr., Ted Cruz are all speaking out about foul play. And they're on the side of the Reddit people, the common trader.
We love that.
Let the market be available to all. Do not restrict it and give favoritism towards the hedge funds. Right? So politically, this is happening. And now you're seeing the misinformation combined. This is nonpartisan. You go on Fox Business, you go on CNBC, you go on, whatever Market Watch or whatever you're trying to say. And there's people coming on from Melvin, from Citadel, saying these guys are closing their positions today, right, on Friday. But then I read an article about a guy that looked at the numbers of closed positions and said hardly any positions that were shorted had been closed on Friday. So they're literally getting up there and they're lying to everyone, which again might be construed as insider trading. So you cannot publicly release misinformation, just like you can't privately use information not available to the public. Both of those are federal crimes. So there's a bunch of things happening right now that are crazy. And I know that the SEC is investigating the Reddit forum and looking to see if there's insider trading going on there. But all it is just a bunch of people saying, hey, buy GameStop and hold.
That's
buy
it.
And hold. There's no coordination. There's just people saying buy it and hold. Don't listen to me. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a, quote, retarded smooth brain monkey.
Yeah. And goddamn, I mean, that's not some accolades right there. But no, it is interesting. And I thought we talked about this yesterday too. Robinhood. I think Robinhood should be gone. I think they're going to take a huge hit. I think they literally might have just kissed their entire company goodbye last week when they did that. But that's how powerful when you're controlled. You're literally controlled by the hedge funds at the end of the day. Like they just showed that right there. Like, what side are you on? And I think we talked about this yesterday too, that like everything that they preach and the platform that they stand for, the common man can be involved in the marketplace. You don't have to have a shitload of money. You don't have to be on Wall Street, right? Anybody can do it. Get in here. But they're literally manipulating everybody and using all of their user data and selling that back to the hedge funds too. So that screams to me foul play as well. So it is interesting. Like we talked about this multiple times and laughing about it. It's really awesome to see. And things are universally okay with what's going on when you have both the extreme left and the extreme right agreeing on the same thing. It rarely happens.
For the first time in like 20 years.
And this is literally, and we've talked about how amazing Joe Biden is and all of his accomplishments back in season 1, but this was the unity he was talking about. I mean, he wasn't going to let cat out of the bag here about how he was going to do it, but kudos to you, Biden. Good job. I don't know how you did it.
He did start up the Reddit forum, so
that's true. Well, he started Reddit. Like,
so another kind of misinformation thing I wanted to make clear to everyone is you're getting a lot of people, especially on social media, saying the Reddit users are killing the market. They need to stop. They're criminals and they're killing the market. Look at the stock market's all going down. I just want to explain what's happening with the stock market real quick on a whole. So you're seeing blue chippers like Apple, Netflix, Tesla. You're seeing all these big name stocks going down when the market had been doing relatively well, especially with considering the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So the reason those stocks are going down is because these hedge funds, because they were gambling with all of their people's, pensions and 401ks and all of their investors' money, they were gambling so hard on this really, really risky business of short selling in massive quantities and lost to cover their exponential billion-dollar losses, billions of dollars of losses. They now have to sell their long positions and large positions in these companies like Apple and Netflix and Tesla that they had
To
that had
cover.
been growing to
Yeah.
cover their losses. And they are trying to cover, but that process just started and it's going to take several days. So throughout the rest of the week, if they decide to pull the trigger and cut their losses and inject those billions of dollars into GameStop, that's going to then make stock prices rise significantly for anyone that's invested, which they'll then probably buy stock back as it's rising to then cover some of their losses, and which then increases the stock of GameStop. So if you see what I'm saying, I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but it's interesting to see, to say the least, what's going on here. And the GameStop itself and the Reddit people are not directly related to what's happening in the rest of the market with these stocks. I just want everyone to really put that, like, follow the money on that and realize that stocks go down when you sell more than you buy. Stocks go up when you buy more than you sell. That's how it works. That is the stock market. So if stocks are going down, then these companies are selling more than they're buying. Why would a company like Apple, that's doing great right now, be selling more stocks than they're buying? And that's because someone needs money. And that someone is these hedge funds that are losing their fucking ass.
You know what? This is all good stuff too, because there's going to be plenty of marquee blue chip companies right now, just, you know, ready for people to buy when they're dipping right now too.
For real. Thank you,
know what I mean?
Reddit users and Wall Street Bets. I've been
You guys-
waiting for Netflix and Apple and Tesla to go on sale so that I can afford to get in at a better price. So I appreciate what's going down right now.
Reddit induced fire sale on Tesla, Apple, Netflix. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great news for everybody, right? Because this puts us in the position to own more great stocks, because you know they're going to go back up. You know.
Oh yeah, but if you watch any of the mainstream financial market channels on cable,
Sure.
they are telling you that the sky is falling and it's all the Reddit people's fault.
It's pretty sad.
These few million people with their $1,000 that they're investing is crashing the market. And if that is true, then now it's being exposed as to how rigged and lopsided and fragile the market actually is if normal people buying stock can crash it. That doesn't make sense, and that's not how free market works.
And I think quite the opposite is going on right now too, right? People are like, they're demonizing all the Reddit people, and they're demonizing the common man when in fact, this is an example of the common man being able to flex its muscle, right? Literally power and numbers kind of deal. And we can play the stock market just like the big guys, right? And we can hurt the big guys too, which that's not supposed to happen. And boy, they're fucking really throwing a fit about it. But I think it's beautiful. I'm really, really excited for next week. So everybody get out there, buy the dips, especially on all those those blue chip stocks. But if you want to be a part of the solution, which obviously we like to be, get some AMC. It's still pretty cheap. What is it, like 13, 14 bucks a share right now? I mean, GameStop's getting a little ridiculous.
We are in no way financial advisors. We're just a couple of talking head big mouths on TV, and this is a show for entertainment reasons only.
Yeah, but seriously, AMC is still pretty affordable. Get out there, guys, okay? And hold, for Christ's sakes. Don't get nervous. That's what they want. Don't let them intimidate you. They're just suits, and we can fuck up the suits. Let's do it. Woo!
Diamond hands, y'all. Diamond hands. Hold till the bitter end. So have you seen the billboards going up?
No, I haven't seen any billboards going up.
So there's like a few dozen billboards across the nation in cities that have gone up saying things like, "We love the Stonk." You know, GameStop.
We did it all for the Stonk.
Yeah, we like the stock, you know, to the moon, diamond hands to the moon. Like, seriously, like several of these guys are selling a few of their shares because they're holding heavy. And so they're buying marketing things to get increased, because this is a global movement now. It's not just the guys on Reddit. All over the world, people are now joining in and buying the stock, which greatly helps out Melvin Capital.
Hey, again, we're all about being part of the solution here. You know what else is pretty interesting? We know he's got a lot of power, but even Elon Musk just tweeting about what's going on with GameStop sent the fucking price, up like 30, 40 points. Just it's really, really interesting to see that.
He doesn't like short sellers. They're always fucking with his stock.
Yeah. Of course,
They
I
have
would.
been for years, because think about it. Up until this year, Tesla had never turned a profit. Remember, just this year when they joined the S&P
Mhm.
500 was the first year that they had 4 quarters consecutively of profitability, and that's when S&P let them into their market.
Yeah.
So up until this year, he's been susceptible to fucking hostile short sells like this, and had to overcome that with marketing and campaign and fundraising, and how he's getting more funds into his company and diversifying and everything he's had to do. So he's been in a constant battle with these hedge funds for years. So naturally, he wants to
Mm.
get in this fight and weigh his 2 cents, because he's got a stake in the game, man. They've been costing him billions of dollars.
I'll tell you what, it seems like Musk is going like in the opposite direction from the world in a whole. Like if you turn on the news right now, so many different variants and strains of coronavirus are taking over. The vaccine rollout sucks, shit sucks, whatever. But Elon is just on an opposite like path there. Things just keep getting better. I mean, we're shooting rockets in 2020. His company joins the S&P. He's goes from like the sixth to the most. Is he the richest man in the world now or second
He was a
for a
couple of
hot
weeks
minute?
ago, but his stock did go down a bit
This is
lately.
true.
So I
This is
mean,
true.
he could have sunk, but who cares? Yes, let's
Now
just say
it
yes.
Yeah, and now he gets to
I mean, he's
revel
one of
and
the
the
smartest, so we'll
right.
say that.
And now he gets to enjoy here and just watch the hedge fund people squirm too. This is the age of Elon. I'll just go ahead and say that,
Well, and
things are looking
honestly,
good.
a lot of the world is enjoying this, sticking it to the billionaires. It's a movement that's gaining such traction because people for so long want to, you've heard it for decades, stick it to the man, fight the man.
Yeah,
This is
sure.
this is this is it. This is going to their stage with their pieces and fucking outsmarting them and taking
Mhm.
advantage of them being just, let's just call it what it is, brazen with their risk management and throwing
Mhm.
fucking caution into the wind and playing around with billions of dollars and thinking everyone's too dumb to know what they're doing or catch them on it. And they got called out, and they got called out by fucking basement dwelling monkeys on
Yeah.
Reddit.
And the other interesting thing is too, and I'm glad you brought up, Congress getting involved, obviously, because one of the things about the hedge managers that I learned just over the last week too is they're constantly, as you were just saying, they're constantly doing this all the time. They're shorting so many stocks out there. They're gambling essentially, and when they do make the wrong bet, they normally just get bailed out by the government and just get fucking funded again. And they're never going to learn their lesson like that, right? Business as usual. They stay on top, even when they fuck up, they get backed up again. I think this may cause that to hit the brakes too, which is very exciting. Now you got to deal with what you did. You made your bed. Now you got to lay in it, kind of deal. And we're not going to help you out because now you've been exposed. Ooh.
Yeah, instead of bailing these guys out, I would like to see Congress just address short selling requirements in general. Like, if you want to short sell, that's fine, but then you need to like have assets worth, you know, exponential values of that risk, so that if
Mhm.
you get fucked by a social movement like this, that you have enough to cover. And I'm saying that you can only short sell like and risk like $2 billion if it goes up like 5,000%. So that
Mhm.
way the short sells is much less and less influential and impactful on the market, and you have to work much harder at it if you want to be profitable at it, instead of have that as your sole like main methodology of making profits, because
Mhm.
that's what Melvin is all about. They turn 30% profit every year since 2014 until this year.
Yeah.
That's why they're getting fucking billions of dollars pumped in to help mitigate these losses, is because for the last 7 years, these billionaires have gotten a 30% return on their investment every fucking year.
Can I say this too? Mom's basement has never been so sexy than in 2021. That's all I got to
No,
say.
no. And these guys are becoming like social icons.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane just kind of watching it all go down. But it, the more momentum it gains, the more that this particular hedge fund loses exponentially, because the more people will buy stock, the more people will hold stock, the more their interest goes up. So every day these guys have like 100+% interest on the stock that they don't close. So if that's
Mhm.
$100 million, that's $100 million every single day on that in that single position.
Sure.
So they can only last so long. Meanwhile, A lot of these guys only have $1,000 invested and they don't care and they're ready to lose it all. So they can just sit there and hold out indefinitely. But this firm, it's costing $100 million a day. The clock's ticking on Melvin, not so much on the Reddit guys.
We'll call them Keith again, just to
That's right.
Keep things lined up there.
They're at home playing Animal Crossing.
I don't know about you, buddy, but a lot of talk about gains. It's got me thirsty. What do you think?
Yeah, I live thirsty. Let's go do something about that.
All right, we'll see you.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, it's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, bud, how we doing?
Better after I crushed that chips and salsa.
I knew it. I fucking knew it. You son of a bitch. I'm always wondering, I'm like, what buffet is he going down to down there? What all you can eat is Bobby enjoying right now? Well, good for you. I will tell you one thing. I don't know if it's my Coco Lopez that I got, but the cream of coconut is fucking gross. It's fucking like it came out all nasty. I had to break through like a top layer of it that was all like hard, almost like wax. And then all of a sudden it was liquidy. I mixed it all up. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? No wonder I've never bought that shit before. But honestly, let's try a snowblower out, huh? What do you think? Woo! Like, well, that is a beautiful highball glass, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's give it a little sippy here. Okay.
It's very tropical and minty. Very thick too.
Yeah. Well, did you do it like as per the you put it in the glass and then use the shaker end of it to shake it, or did you do it in the shaker and then dump it in there?
Dumped it in. I made two.
Yeah. Oh, good for you. Yeah. I just made one, and let me get another sip in here. I don't know if I really got the full effect.
An interesting collage of flavors on this. So
it's really odd because I'm getting the pineapple juice for the kind of tropical fruitiness. I'm getting the peppermint schnapps cutting right in there, so giving me like the mintiness of it. I don't taste the gin at all, which is interesting because gin is quite pungent, if you ask me, but apparently not. As we learned from many moons ago, gin is actually a great mixer. We just don't know it. But Stiffies, just so you know, we're having a snowblower. We thought it would be festive since it's winter time, but I think it's nearly almost 60 degrees in Denver today, which is pretty interesting.
And it's 1:17 p.m.
That is awesome. Yes, but this is an ounce of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of peppermint schnapps, 2 ounces of cream of coconut, and then top it off with pineapple juice. The rest of that in a nice glass of ice. Shake that bitch up, and boom, bam, you got yourself a snowblower. Interesting drink.
Yeah, it's very easy going down. Obviously, it's very tropical with the pineapple and coconut, right? And I got the squeeze bottle of coconut.
I opted out of that one, and that's me reading labels. The one that had the squeeze bottle was like another 200 more calories than the one that was in the little can. But you know what? You've got the squeeze. I got some weird shit that's like all like fucking wax that I had to mix together with the liquid.
Yeah, obviously, I'm a heavy calorie counter.
I normally am not when it really comes down to it, but when I was at the store getting it, they were side by side. The one in the can was more expensive, and I saw the squeeze bottle. Naturally, I was like, well, what's the difference between these two? And I turned them, I was like, oh geez, 280 calories, 130 calories. This one's more expensive. I'll get the one that's more expensive. Why not? Maybe it's more legit, but I don't know. I literally have that open can of fucking Coco Lopez on the counter there. It's probably gonna get thrown in the trash after today. Because what am I going to use it for now? It's the can I opened.
Well,
you know?
I love mine because I'll probably add a little bit of coconut into my Mai Tai here shortly. As I
we're going Mai Tais. Can I admit something to you real quick? I'm because this drink is, let's face it, not one of our stiffer ones, right? It literally has like not even 2 ounces of actual booze in it. I'm back there making it up. I dropped my drink off. I noticed you're still eating chips and salsa or whatever. I was like, you know what? Went and took myself a shot of scotch just to kick it up a notch. I did. I know. But hey, if we're gonna have the stiff truth, man, I got to be stiffed up. And I will say, it's a good drink. It's an interesting drink. I like it, not super stiff though.
No, in fact, it's not stiff at all. It does taste like it's interesting. So I'm not going to say like it's bad. I mean, it's very good. It's different because you don't expect the peppermint.
Oh.
That's the weird twist on it that like I'm wrestling with my palate. Because obviously, pretty much pineapple and coconut almost go together every time.
True.
Like, almost every time you have one, you have the other when you're making a drink.
It is interesting though, because the peppermint is the last thing on your taste buds too. So it's kind of, you get the fruitiness, you get the coconut, and then it layers in there with the nice little aftertaste of peppermint. And you're not expecting that. It's not logical. It's a little strange, but it's good. It's good enough. Good enough.
Yeah, it is a good drink. It's definitely one to keep around and have occasionally.
Like, look at this.
We're not exactly selling this, right?
hey, we gotta tell it like it is, man. You know what I mean? It's a strange, unusual drink, but still, we're drinking it, and goddamn it, I'm enjoying it too.
Yeah, and I get to buy that coconut that I've been wanting to add to the bar, so I'm good with that. So, we wanted to dip into something that's really, in light of the last week, has lost a lot of steam as far as the news cycle has gone.
I think GameStop took front and center. I mean, that was on Fox News the other night. My God,
GameStop and Biden's, executive orders and
over 25 of them now. He's busy
Marjorie
guy.
Greene chick being all up on the news all the time for her being from Florida. No offense, Florida, but.
Like, I'm not saying anything, but I am saying she is from Florida. So you know what I mean? No. Suspect right out of the gate, right? But no, yeah, I think this still has, and you know what? I think it's dangerous for this to be scooted to the back. As we were talking about, we have a little bit of a difference of opinion on currently what's going on, but there is a decent amount of censorship, banning, basically silencing an opposite view. Regardless of where you stand politically, that by itself is kind of where I'm concerned for how that could potentially snowball, slippery slope style, into something where it's very acceptable for an entire opposite view or any opposing to view to be silenced. And, then we're starting to talk about 1984 type style. So yeah, it can be dangerous. And this is to me, I think an overwhelming majority of people are okay with what's happening, when I think there needs to be some red flags raised and some people that push back a little bit. That's all I'm saying. I mean, right out of the gate.
See, here's kind of where we differ is I segment kind of the censorship off into two different things for me. I segment it off as to government involved or not, right? If someone's censoring something because of that's how they want to run their company, right? Then that's up to that company. They risk losing customers.
Yeah, sure.
Hobby Lobby, right, makes it pretty clear that they're a pro-life Christian company, closed on Sundays, much like Chick-fil-A. And if you're not
Totally
down
fine
with that, or if you're outspoken against their shit, then they don't want you working for them, and they don't care if you shop there, right?
And that's fine. They're a private company. They can do that. They have the repercussions, right? The potential repercussions to deal with, loss of business. But I think last time I checked, too, Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A doing quite well. So
yeah, either way, I need my vinyl. So, political affiliations and religious beliefs aside,
I'm feeling crafty.
I need my acrylic, and that's just the way that it is.
Hey, look, you could always go to Michael's, right? I mean, there's the thing about the free market too. But no, you're right, and I want to highlight that too. That just speaking to directly, right, to what you're referring to, I think private companies can do whatever the fuck they want. They're private. Right. They're not in the public sector. They're not something like utilities or something like that. So when Twitter says, we want to ban Donald Trump, fantastic. Obviously doing that has not really hurt their business at all. Good for them. But I will say what I think happened to Parler is a little bit different, because when you get like a lot of these platforms that basically, if you don't have access for your app to be viewed and downloaded from them, you kind of don't exist, right? They have that power. That's where it takes it to another level to me. And I think honestly, you know what? Whatever, dude. And I know, and here's what I think the rhetoric is, well, there was a faction of people that are Republicans by default because they don't like fucking liberals that are fucking batshit crazy, redneck, fucking inbred motherfuckers that stormed the Capitol. And even though a lot of the planning was actually done on Facebook and Twitter, they look at Parler and say, well, this is the breeding ground of the hate and the misinformation. Not really. I don't think there was really much going on with Parler as it speaks to the insurrection, but they look at that platform as they're demonizing the platform because it has a radical view in the sense that it is not at all for the left. It's definitely for people that are conservative. And there again is a faction of people within there that maybe are on Parler, maybe not, that are giving everybody a bad name in that area. And what they did to Parler and what they're doing to a lot of conservatives right now is they're painting everybody to be in that same vein. Everybody now that voted for Trump or likes to be fiscally responsible or likes to have a booming economy that loves fucking fossil fuels, whatever it is, doesn't fucking matter. But everybody now is being painted into that quarter of being a hardcore right extremist. And when they can do that, they can start doing things like basically shutting off the lifeblood of Parler being able to have membership. And it's okay with everybody because Parler is the breeding ground of hate speech and the whole reason why the insurrection happened, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. So that to me, I think is the bigger issue.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things with that, right? So pretty much you have like some collusion going on here, right? So you have Apple, you have Amazon, and you have Google Play stores, and they've all pretty much decided now whether they got together and had a phone call or a meeting, a Zoom meeting or whatever, and decided this, or whether they just kind of got in line with the other as to not be the one that didn't. They all banned the app from their app stores. And like you were saying, if you don't have an app in an app store, you're anonymous.
You kind of don't have an you kind of don't have an app anymore. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like the one thing I could say is I can equate it to an analogy here. Very similar, like what they did to Trump. Again, ban anybody you want, any individual you want. Once you start banning an ideology or a movement or just a political standpoint, that's where it gets a little murky to me. But I like to think of it, and this is what I heard that I thought was good. When you ban somebody like Trump or anybody else, right? Whatever. If you ban them from any kind of social media platform, because there's a lot to choose from. It's basically like you blocking their phone number, right? So they can't call you or something like that. But what happened to Parler is essentially where you pretty much just deactivate their phone completely. They can't call anybody. Nobody can call them. That to me is the difference right there. And I thought that was a pretty nice little analogy that somebody laid out. But again, I'm not just saying Parler. I'm seeing it more. I'm seeing it translate into other things too. And that's where I think the slippery slope starts and where I get a little bit worried. I don't give two shits about Parler. However, I think if people have a way different of opinion, then obviously the people that control Facebook and Twitter are not very conservative. That's totally fine. I think the conservatives should be able to have a voice. And honestly, they can go on Parler and they can talk to each other all day long. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. It's not going to affect my life. You see what I'm saying? But that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, and the strange thing about Parler from a business standpoint is they were seemingly 100% reliant on their apps. Like Twitter, you can go to twitter.com and use Twitter, or you can get on your phone and use an app or whatever. But Parler doesn't seem to have that. So like I tried to get on Parler the other day, and it just says that they're down until further notice. They're working on, how they're going to come back. And you can't just log into Parler's website. So they don't have like the website designed to just be functional. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously pulling from a database using the apps. So that's just not kind of how their website is. So they weren't prepared at all from a business aspect to be ready for that. So when they did get cut off with their apps, it crippled their ability to operate 100%. And so that's kind of a risk management thing on them. But then the slippery slope that you're talking about is so kind of going back to the was government involved, right? That's what's constitutionally protected with censorship. Obviously, is that government won't censor you through a company or in other means, and that's what's in the Constitution. But what we're looking at is we're looking at social censorship, and the danger of it is the acceptance of censorship, even if it's just not anything to do with government, but there's a social movement that now it's accepted that it's okay that we're just going to go ahead and block, like you said, an ideology or whatever from existence.
Mhm.
Um, that's that's where people have to be careful about to enjoy the freedoms in America. You have to let other people also have them,
Yeah,
right?
everybody should be able to have their own voice,
Right. So
regardless of whether or not you agree with it.
if you enjoy the ability to post or say something that's going to piss some people right off, then you also need to wholeheartedly accept the fact that other people will have that freedom to piss you off.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's the kind of thing that's going on with it's not just Parler, it's the cancel culture in general.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what this leads into. And it's cultural censorship, whether it's physical censorship or not. You see plenty of people say something bad or something gets pulled up from something that they had said, years ago, or made a joke that wasn't very funny, like Kevin Hart, right? And then all of a sudden he gets blacklisted, or so this is essentially blacklisting Parler from, big tech's methodology. Again, they probably should have had a backup plan in case they needed to operate without the use of an app and had a better website, but they're a small company. They didn't
And
have the
honestly,
development for that.
And honestly, why even think about the backup plan when you're thinking that these platforms that allow you to have people download your app and everything like that, how would they even fathom that it would go away or that they would be blocked from it? It's not a backup plan you would think about in this modern age. It's just not. It's just, yeah, I mean, especially for a new company. But yeah, no, it is what it is.
Well, and in the agreements on the app stores, they do say things about like you can't promote hate speech, this and that, or you run the risk of us removing your app. So they should have. The whole essence of Parler specifically was we don't moderate you. You can say whatever the fuck you want, free speech. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but your host doesn't feel the exact same way. So you have to mitigate that risk also if you're going to do that. And they weren't willing to do that. And that was the appeal, was that they're not going to dig into people's stuff and look at everything and fact check and moderate. And they're not going to get into that. They're not going to be in the business of moderation like Facebook and Twitter got into. And that's why millions of users started going to them. But there's also the user agreements that are pretty specific. Apple's probably the worst because they're very Starbucks crew, very very, very left-leaning overall folks in the Apple community. So that's more of the something you should have watched out for there as far as them going. But regardless of that, and I think it's been said a lot of times about the cancel culture. The cancel culture in America needs to stop, and we need to just get back to just not liking somebody. If I don't like you, I don't have to listen to you, but I don't have to try to fight to get you removed.
Yeah. And you don't literally, it's turning into like a tribal shaming, you know what I mean? And getting everybody on board with that. So it's not just the tribe, and they're winning right now. A lot of people are winning. I'll give you an example, which I was thinking about here too. We can all agree that the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, not a stand-up organization to a lot of people. A lot of people hate it, and for good reason, right? However, legally, by the First Amendment, they're allowed to have rallies in public, in towns, right? And they can gather, they can go rah, 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 their rhetoric of, white supremacy and everything like that, as long as they are not hurting anybody or like legitimately and very specifically, having some kind of weird hate rally or something like that, they can do that. People boycott it, and people get all fucking up in arms all the time about it because they don't like it in their community. That's their fucking right. But it's an extreme example, but that is protected by the First Amendment. You're allowed to have a difference of opinion, even if it's a very, very bad opinion to a lot of people, and you're in the vast majority, you're still able to have that in America. And I really see just with that example that they have now, and I'm talking about just big tech, most of the media, and the left in general politically have now turned what being a Republican or somebody that if you're voted for Trump, God forbid, you are now like 10 times worse than a member of the Ku Klux Klan. That's what it seems like, and that's how you're able to cancel people so easily if you have that suspicion of them, and I think that's highly wrong.
Well, yeah, you can't just lump everyone into being, QAnon.
But they
or
are. I mean,
KKK.
literally. I mean, I've heard recently. Ted Cruz takes his marching orders from QAnon. Like, no, I doubt that. I doubt maybe Trump, but not. You know what I mean? Doesn't it?
No,
it-
he
but
takes his marching order from the Tea Party
you're right
because he's
but
part of the Tea Party.
but again, it's very interesting to me that it's anybody that now is against the grain with what the left is pouring out of their rhetoric is automatically demonized and put in this box. It's been pretty extreme, and it's very acceptable to almost everybody too, which I think is pretty interesting as well. But I'm sure you've seen it now. It's the most recent thing I've seen. Even politicians right now too. Even if they're saying, "Hey, Rand Paul, for instance, Rand always stands for himself, right? That I don't think he's swayed by any one person or any group of people. However, because Rand, which always it goes against the grain, Republican or Democrat, really, if you really break down what he's battled over his career, when he says that the impeachment isn't right, it shouldn't happen, it's unconstitutional, immediately that is translated to him being part of that movement too, which is wrong, which is definitely wrong. It's not what he stands for. But again, anybody right now that's retracting difference of opinion to what the left wants to hear is automatically being put in that tiny little box of that small minority of fucking crazy Southern inbred redneck Trumpers that really are the ones that stormed the Capitol.
Well, I think a lot of that, honestly, Scott, has to do with the imagery of January 6th and the QAnon movement in general. I think that has tarnished the Republican Party and made normal Republicans an easy target. I really do. I think it's hard to separate that because I think that a lot of people, especially people that don't actually pay attention, that haven't been paying attention for the last 8 years, that have just started paying attention near the election. Right?
I'll say one thing. People that don't pay attention is the reason we have all this horrible groupthink.
Right. That's it. Because if you've paid attention this whole time, then there's a distinct far left group that has an ideology, and there's a distinct far right group that has an ideology, and then there's even multiple groups within those groups. Sure. Right? There's far right groups like the Tea Party that don't believe in any sort of extremism. They just want fiscal responsibility, like hardcore, right? Cutting funds, food stamp programs, Social Security, like different things. There's those guys, and then there's extreme right people that are white supremacists that sure. do believe in that. And just like there's extreme left people that really do believe in taking to the government and the Antifa ideology of let's create anarchy and fuck the government, we need to start over and all this other shit. But then that whole fucking like 50% that right in the middle, which is the majority of Americans that have sense, that mostly don't post a lot of shit on Facebook and social media and kind of just weigh in intellectually without having to speak their mind and spread their belief to people, they get thrown into each side of this argument by the 1% of the most outspoken, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing now, is we're seeing Republicans thrown into the most extreme versions of that party, and it's similar to what we really saw over the summer, to where almost every Democrat, so you want to remove police? Well, no. Sure. I just like believe in, gay rights or whatever, but it doesn't matter because you voted Democrat. Now you're extreme.
Yeah. In the summertime, it was like, I think there should be some reform to the police department. Fuck you. He wants to, because same thing. I want to remove all the police. He wants to defund the police. We don't want any police on the street, which is obviously a farce.
Right. I think that's what happens. And you get that by, I don't know, social morons that don't pay attention to anything except for, it's election time. Now it's time for me to be political. And it's just like, no, politics and shaping and molding this country is a year-round gig. that's always there if you are a patriot and you care. To only care when it's time to vote is setting yourself up for failure, because now you're ignorant and you don't know the climate, you don't know what's been happening. And I think you're seeing a good example of that right now when anyone on the right is being thrown into QAnon, when
Yeah,
we both
anybody.
know that QAnon believers are pretty far and few between.
And yeah, there's been a lot of talk too by members of Congress that there's white supremacy ideologies within Congress with senators, and I really think that's not true. It's unfortunate. But and here's the biggest issue with me right now, like we were talking about. It is now extremely palatable, and people are swallowing anybody that's silenced right now with that's what they get for having that kind of outlandish, fucking crazy view that is un-American and not patriotic. Where does it stop? That's my issue. You know what I mean? Once, and it's not, I don't think it's a conscious effort for most people, right? But well, okay, Donald Trump's banned, Parler is fucking basically erased off the map because they're white supremacists. Then where does that stop? Like where is it not okay to silence somebody that's in opposition of who's in power right now? And right now it's the Democrats, right? So that is my fear is, and why I wanted to talk about it honestly is like, we can't be okay with all of this when we start realizing what happens if it doesn't stop. And again, what happens if it doesn't stop is all of a sudden we have like state-run media. That's kind of the end game right there, where we only hear what who's in power wants us to hear, and anybody else is un-American and needs to be silenced. The media is treasonous, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? That's where potentially where we can be going if people don't start questioning this kind of stuff.
I would even say it's not even just the Democrats. I'm even seeing in the Republican Party that you're not Republican enough, or you're not Trump enough with Liz Cheney, right? So the chair of the RNC, right, voted that she thought it was constitutional to hear the impeachment case.
Yeah,
that's it. Not that she deserves that Trump will be impeached. Not that she's going to vote to impeach him. Just that simply, I disagree with Rand Paul. And I think that it is constitutional that we can impeach this person because of the way that it's laid out in the law. And I believe that we should at least hear the case, right? And because of that, now you've got our favorite Republican congressman, butthead, Matt Gaetz, going up from Florida, literally holding a rally, I think yesterday or the day before. And
I'll tell you what, though, his hair looked magnificent, though. It looked like it was wind whipped for a long time. Like he just stuck his head out the window, out of the right side of the car. And it was fucking.
He's like the brunette Jimmy Neutron.
He really is,
that
dude.
Guy is crazy. So, anyways, like, what the hell a Florida congressman is doing going up January after an election into Wyoming to unseat the Republican chair is pretty despicable as far as the motivations within the Republican Party. When this is Dick Cheney's daughter. I mean, this chick was born with some Republican to her, right? I mean, so the fact that like all of a sudden she's not conservative enough is concerning to me, because now where does that end? So how long until I'm not liberal enough?
Oh, very, very soon, Bob. I mean, you said some stuff here that would just fucking really put you on the outs, bro. Put you against the ropes.
Well, I bought a shotgun with my first stimulus payment. So
see, that's not good either, bro. You're really.
I thought I was going to get unregistered.
You're directly. I'm going to say not even indirectly, but with that move and that purchase, you directly attributed to more school shootings. I'm sorry. This is what happened. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Bob, but you are now officially a piece of shit.
No, because school shootings are just a red flag event. Green told us. So
yeah, this is true. This is true.
We don't even have to worry about that.
But you're absolutely right. This is not simply the left and left Democrats. I see a lot of it happening that way, but you brought up, that was a great point, though. Even within the same party on the right, you're seeing this. And I think it's a virus that a lot of people are catching right now. It seems to be much more okay that if somebody doesn't agree with you, everything that you're saying, then you're on the outs, dude. You're on Leopard Island. You know what I mean? There's almost no compromise or acceptance of opposing views right now, no matter where you're at, which is very dangerous.
I've got a real question, right?
You want to get real?
How long is it before we acknowledge that not everyone is of equal intelligence and understanding in this country, and that we just need to let the not as smart people say whatever the fuck they want on the internet, and just knowing deep inside like their voice doesn't matter. Because what happens is that people get that magnaphone magnaphone,
I like what you did there.
right?
Mangaphone. No, I'm just kidding.
And they start spouting nonsense on social media, but then the other buffoons like start thinking, oh well, this guy's obviously smart enough to have a valid insight on what's going on, when there's no credentials saying that they do. And then people don't know the difference between what's real and what's not on social media anymore. I mean, no one knows that Matt Gaetz is a clown.
Well, we do.
I mean, he goes and like people are like, oh, this guy's representing. He's great. Actually, he hasn't proposed any tangible legislation ever. He's done nothing positive for the Republican Party except for be a great political face with great hair.
Great hair, and I think he's got veneers too. I mean, he looks the part for sure. Like you said, Neutron all the way, Matty Neutron.
So I mean, it's compounding the problem. So how do we get people to accept people's viewpoints
Honestly,
without
that's a great
believing
question.
them?
Yeah, how do we unwind this? You know what I mean? Honestly, like we're getting to a point now where it's so acceptable socially to just really hate on people dramatically because they don't agree with you. What happened to healthy debate? What happened to? I mean, it seems like these things are just fading. They're just fading, and I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't even have an idea on how you correct something like this, because socially we've progressed to this for using progressed actually in a way I don't want to, but you know what I mean? That's what I kind of feel. We are now at a point where I don't think there is a wind back the clock kind of thing on this idea.
And honestly, I think it really goes back to last year's episode about the death of journalism.
Yeah,
I really do. I think that's played the biggest part in the dismantling of our free speech and tribalism politics than anything else has in the last 20 years.
I agree. And that's not going to slow down at all. It's not like things are going to change on how the news gets funded, right? It's not we're not going to magically find like a $10 billion budget within the government, even though they can find it for everything else if they want to, but that's not going to happen. And we're not going to just start, subsidizing news like we should, God damn it, because all we're left with is a bunch of interest. That's all we see, is we're seeing other people's interests broadcasted on the news, whoever it is, right? And that's what we're consuming as fact and what's going on.
How many news shows? Me and you watch news shows all the time, right?
We do.
But how many of those news shows are categorized as news versus entertainment television? Because if you actually go to the Nielsen ratings and look at like their ratings and things,
it's all entertainment.
It's all entertainment. Everything from like 5 to 9 o'clock at night on any news station is entertainment television.
And do you remember what we laughed about too during the journalism episode? We were talking about the CBS, interview that we watched. I was like, well, it was CBS. So, it's like, it was boring. It wasn't meant to get you fucking worked up, right? And have like a special effects and all these fucking dramatic things going on to fucking drive your fear.
A nonstop waving fucking American flag in the background.
Right, yeah, it's like they actually just wanted to give you the goddamn straight dope of what's going on. Very boring, very old school, not trying to get people to tune in even anymore. It's sad, bro, because honestly, it's been a long time. I have to say, in modern history I can think of, I don't remember watching the news and thinking, I don't need to turn the channel to the other channel, right, to the other news outlet and see what's going on there, and then do some deductive reasoning and some critical thinking, and then come up with my own idea of what really is going on in the world after I get both extreme sides and mash them together in my head. I don't think I've seen that in like 20, 30 years. Hands down.
Also, as far as like the whole Apple and Google Play presumably colluding to get Parler out of their app stores, because there had to have been a phone call that took place there. They're using that internet on government subsidized or just straight government built internet channels in the US infrastructure. So there should be a bigger role in government, I hate to say, but actually restricting private companies from censoring people in this fashion if they're going to be using their shit, unless they want to build their own infrastructure. Then they can do whatever the fuck they want, right? But while they're building on a shared infrastructure that's been subsidized and or at least partially tax funded, then they need to abide by the rules and let these people talk.
Honestly, I like what you said there, because if you think about it, if there is involvement with public dollars, all of a sudden you're not just a private company doing private things anymore.
Right.
Right. You are actually teetering into the public realm, and you need to be held accountable for what you could potentially do there. So I like that. I think that would be a beautiful thing. Like, hey, listen, yeah, you're a private company, but you're also going to use our infrastructure. If you get a little out of hand here, this is what's going to happen. So I think that would be a good checks and balance.
What if Apple or Google or whatever, instead of saying we're going to pull you, just said, fine, here's the stipulations. If we see hate speech or whatever, or fucking crimes being planned or whatever on your shit, we're going to demonetize you for X amount. I mean, YouTube's done it to us. We lost so much money on that one episode.
All for playing Red Wine by UB40 too. Can you believe that? I re-listened to that. It was heart-wrenching.
Fucking worth it. It was worth every last penny that we didn't make on that.
That was a big episode too, monetarily. You know what I mean?
I know. We lost at least hundreds of thousands of wishes. So, but what if there's a different model, right? So that you could just punish people, but not, not actually by censoring them, but by, finding them to be on your platform or charging them more money per violations. It's got to be another system, because again, that those internet lines that everyone's going across to utilize these services have been, if not outright built by the government, have been at minimal subsidized as part of infrastructure plans.
100%. I think that's a very good point to bring up, dude. And again, you said it, maybe
Phone
joking around,
do it,
but West 2024, you know what I mean? Here we go, baby.
You know that the FCC monitors calls, right? We've been in sales late at night. Once 9 o'clock hits, you're off the phone. Cannot call someone after 9 in almost every single state in the union, because it is a crime. You're now committing a crime to call them after 9 o'clock and bother them during their non-soliciting hours.
That's my butt sex time. So don't be.
So if you do that, because you're on government lines, they can control that, and they'll find the company. They'll find you right out of fucking business. They'll find you millions of dollars, right? So why is that sort of ideology not also done for the internet?
It's a great question. I think it needs to be followed up on, dare I say, maybe by us.
We just got to get, Warren and AOC and Ted Cruz and Rand Paul all in the same room.
First of all, just that alone is great. That's great right there. That's pay-per-view, if you ask me. It's like, tonight we've got AOC, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Elizabeth Warren in the same room. That'd be pretty beefy.
And by the way, where's Celebrity Deathmatch? We're missing out on opportunities here.
My God. Now that just brought back some great memories there. Talking about nostalgia right there.
Celebrity Deathmatch would be killing it and bringing people together.
This is true. This is very true. Well, I want to recap a little bit. This has been an action-packed show so far, but I'm not going to go out on a limb here. But so from the beginning, I guess the Bucks are going to win the Super Bowl here, according to Bob, which is fine. McGregor's a has-been. Buy AMC and GameStop stocks, please, for everybody.
But we're not financial advisors. We're just we're just a couple of internet personalities. That
what you hear on the Stiff Truth is just our opinions. So please don't base.
This is an entertainment show.
Snowblowers are a little funky, but we'll drink them because they have booze in them. Censorship is bad. I think that's a pretty good recap so far, right? Just to catch everybody up that just tuned in.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny how we kind of approach the censorship from two different places. With a little bit of discussion and a little bit of understanding and active listening. I think we actually reached like kind of what's wrong and why what we both don't really like about it. And not only did that, we actually came up with some solutions.
Isn't that interesting, Bob, how when people that have somewhat conflicting views on something, when they talk it out and listen to each other and accept maybe the other person's idea as, valid and kind of, kicking that around in your head, that sometimes that you can come to a common ground and have solutions. That's really interesting to me. I don't know. Maybe people should take note.
Don't tell anyone.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
I think the
No.
cat's out of the bag.
And by the way, fuck you and you're liberal.
But I bought a gun. I bought a gun. I wipe
Okay,
my own ass.
Fine. Then you're a bad liberal. Bad liberal. Let's move on to something a little bit more lighthearted to go ahead and just cap off this show. What do you say? You want to move into some fun stuff?
About time. Let's move on to something, comical.
Yes. And by that, he means, what is our favorite, the best natural disaster out there? Huh?
A few things are funnier than people dying in mass from, acts of God.
It's not, but why am I laughing so much? And I got a big smile on my face too. But Bob, do you want to go first on this? Did you almost fall backwards too?
No. I almost knocked my green screen down. And then I would have lost my fancy little young Trumpian looking guy.
Don't get too comfortable here. Okay. But I'd like you to kick it off, my friend. Do you have a natural disaster that tickles your fancy a little bit more than the other guys out there?
Best natural disaster, QAnon. Just kidding.
The first presidential debate in 2020.
Right? No, QAnon would just tell you that HARP created the best natural disaster.
Yep. And that pretty sure there's somebody that turned into a lizard in the pizza place that's raping young boys and eating them too.
So I'm going to go with tornadoes.
Interesting.
And not because they're the most destructive. I like their randomness in location and power. You never really know. So I grew up in East Texas. So for those that don't know, and like every other house has a storm cellar, which really is kind of crazy because it floods a lot over there. So, it fills up with water a lot, and then you're dealing with mold, you're dealing with nastiness. But anyway, when there's a tornado coming, you want to go get in a concrete storm cellar, right? So, just the randomness of tornadoes, because what happens in most tornadoes is it gets really dark and stormy, especially if there's a lot of rain involved and you can't see where it's coming from.
It's actually quite scary how it's tyrannical, crazy winds, no pun intended, and all of a sudden it gets dead calm for a minute before the shit really hits the fan. Yeah, no, I agree.
So I'm really always partial and terrified by the tornadoes. Hurricanes are really bad, but they're coming for a couple of days, right? Tornadoes, it's coming when you hear the noise. The eerie noise in tornado towns. People living in the Midwest know what I'm talking about.
The old school sirens start going off. I used to live in Indiana, and I went through a few of those. It's quite scary. It's eerie.
Either the nuke is coming, or there's a nader coming, right?
Yeah. And both very scary.
Both very scary. I'm kind of partial. Maybe it's PTSD from growing up with tornadoes myself, but I always thought that tornadoes were very, very scary. Not to say that it's the worst natural disaster. I just can appreciate how you never know when it's going to pop, where it's going to go, or how large or devastating it's going to be. There was one that tore through Wiley back in the 92, 93, in the Clinton administration, and little town about 10 miles from my house, and it was half a mile wide. Wow. It just devastated Main Street of this little town. Like every single building was just decimated, and this town was kind of wiped away. At least like the main downtown part of this town, completely gone. It was just crazy. I've been roofing with my dad and putting on shingles of the house, and like looking over a couple of miles away, and just saw 2 tornadoes drop down, and they're just kind of over there doing their thing, and they're like, "Huh, that's weird." Anyway. We'll finish this roof and no big deal because it was in the middle of nothing. It was in the middle of fields and they weren't very scary. But yeah, tornadoes. That's my pick.
Well, and this is what I get for letting you go first because mine was tornadoes.
So that happens all the time. I'm a bastard.
I appreciate you elaborating on that because you kind of hit everything on the head why I was going to talk about it. So I don't even need to regurgitate that.
This was a great show, everyone.
But I will make a little bit of a pivot here because I did have a backup plan just in case this would happen. But again, the randomness of tornadoes with their destructive power. I mean, come on, it's just you can't touch that. It's like MC Hammer. You know what I mean? This is too cool. However, though, I'm a huge fan, and I'm pretty sure that these can cause other natural disasters. But I'm a big fan of volcanic eruptions. Huge fan of volcanic eruptions, and I think one of the funniest things about volcanoes is when they do happen, they are the most devastating natural disasters in the history of the world, right? I mean, we've talked about that with Atlantis and things that happen there, right? But what's really funny to me is how ballsy and how willing people are to gamble, knowing that they could potentially be completely wiped off the face of the earth if their nearby active volcano decides to have a pissy day. I mean, living in Hawaii, living in a couple other places, pretty goddamn ballsy. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go with that because people literally set up shop and put their proverbial flags in like a volcano, and like this is where we're hanging out.
Like Mount St. Helens with the town like in the foothills.
Yeah. And at any given time, you could literally be signing your own death warrant and everybody around you. So I'm going to go with that just because that's always been interesting to me how, especially like in Hawaii too, there's volcanoes a lot. I mean, I don't have it like on the tip of my tongue.
There was just a big one like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And literally if you get a big enough of an eruption, or these other ones that are supposedly dormant that are supposed to be, not dormant in the near future around the world, it's mind boggling that there's literally civilization like built all around the epicenter of what could destroy humanity. This is kind of cool.
And every single volcano too has towns like right underneath it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And it's always been that way. I think it's because it's super fertile right underneath the volcano.
Oh,
so
dude,
the flock there.
That's what I understand too. Is after everything's all said and done, like the ecosystem getting back to normal has a huge benefit with what happens basically with the cleansing, so to speak, of the crust and the earth. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, but I think a volcano being triggered by a random tornado be kind of cool.
And we're also talking about, pretty much non-cataclysmic events. Obviously, an asteroid hitting the earth, a super volcano like what's in Montana and Wyoming up there, erupting. Yeah, obviously. But, just run-of-the-mill seasonal disasters.
Seasonal stuff.
Disasters.
100%.
Hurricanes, tsunamis, volcanoes, earthquakes.
I like tsunamis too. I thought the one that happened in Indonesia, like what? Remember they thought Jet Li was swept away by it or whatever. That was the big news out of like Indonesia or whatever. I think Jet Li was visiting his family in China. Oof.
I know, and Biden wasn't there to stop it. So
no, he was like at that time. What was he doing? I'm not sure what he's probably working on one of the rockets with Elon or something like that at that point. I'm pretty sure that's what he was into at that time. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think he was like fixing AIDS or Ebola or something with Fauci.
Probably Ebola because
we're spreading it with Mike.
Oh, Pensy, it's been a while. It's really been a while, my friend. Well, hey, you know what? I think we're about out of time, buddy. This was a fun show, though.
Very fun show. Episode. It's not going to get the run that it deserves, but God damn it, it ought to, because this was action packed. We haven't had an episode this action packed in quite some time.
I loved it. I loved it.
Good stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Like, subscribe. Spread the word. If you guys want a shirt or a trucker hat or whatever, just hit us up and let us know. Patreon's always there. If you guys want to support the show, we would love to have you on there. We would love to add your name onto the end of our show within the credits in the hierarchy of patrons there.
Don't you think it'd be nice if Mike Lenz was on the credits of the show? That'd be nice. I'm just saying.
I'd love to give him credit.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, where credit is due, we'll do that, right?
I mean,
well,
contributor of the year 2020. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, really. But well, hey man, if you don't got anything else, let's kick rocks. Let's move on with our day. I think you got some Mai Tais to drink. I got something I got to mix up over here.
I've got a bunch of homework to do, so fuck off.
Bob, movie magic, bro. Nobody knows that. You could have just rolled with it, bro.
And then when I'm done, we're packing. So, and not to be confused with fudge packing. This packing sucks.
Well, I was gonna say you just sobered me up on 2 levels. All right.
Well, just hold the book in the front. No one will know.
Well,
all right, guys. Well, that's it. Thank you so much. We will see you guys next week.
Take care, guys.
You gotta get your finger like halfway in your asshole and wash it clean. And I'm like,
cleans with their finger.
I was like, So you watch these. She's like,